Big news today in the world of college football. Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers has officially, how about this, declared for the NFL draft. After spending the last 3 years at Texas, made the announcement this afternoon on social media, deciding to forego his final year of eligibility. Now, a lot of us thought that Quinn Ewers would enter the portal, maybe go somewhere else, spend another year in college, make a little bit of money, a lot of money. Our draft expert, Ryan Wilson, right now has a third to fourth round grade on Quinn Ewers. Texas has a lot of things going on. This is at the very top of them. Danny Kanell is joining us, one of our college football experts. I thought he was going to stay in college. I thought it was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. But here he goes, entering the draft. What do you think about that?
So Ryan Wilson has a third or fourth round grade on him. That's where I was drafted in the fourth round. And I would have died to go back to college to make more money. Absolutely.
He's going to make millions more in college and get a higher draft grade probably.
I think so. And I think the suitors that are out there potentially for Quinn Ewers are pretty attractive. Places he could go win just as much or potentially more than he did at Texas. And that's from a quarterback who went to back-to-back semifinals with the Texas Longhorns. Alabama's in the market for a quarterback. Ohio State might be in the market for a quarterback. Georgia might be in the market for a quarterback. These are all programs that feel a quarterback away from a national championship run. But this is the type of information I think Quinn Ewers is trying to gather right now. He's paying attention to what draft gurus are telling him, what he's probably trying to find out information from his agent as far as exactly where he would be drafted, because I have been surprised over the past decade by many quarterbacks who I didn't think were worth a first or second round pick. And then lo and behold, when the draft process goes through, all of a sudden teams fall in love with you, and all it takes is one team, and all of a sudden you're drafted higher than anybody thought, and you've got a pretty good situation. So that, to me, is what Quinn Ewers is trying to figure out now. Exactly what the NFL thinks, and then what are the real offers on the table from some of those other college programs.
Okay, you answered my question, because I was texting a million people, like, when was it, like, when can he enter the portal? He's got to feel what else is out there.
So he can do, remember, Carson Beck already
like,
came
is he gonna
back.
pull a
Cam
Carson
Ward
Beck?
last year announced and then came back. He has until February, so he's got some time to decide, do I really want to stay in the NFL draft, or I want to pull my name and then go to another place? So he's got a little bit of time to do that.
Okay, Quinn.
Yeah.
Okay, you do you. You do you.
Right?
Danny
It's a multi-million-dollar decision, though.
It's a huge decision.
Huge.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see how that one plays out. We'll, of course, be on top of it here at CBS Sports HQ and on Spotlight as well. Now, when it comes to Texas in the future, though, they have someone waiting in the wings, and it's a name that we've heard over and over again, and that is Arch Manning. Now, we did see flashes of him this year. There are some, outstanding, crazy highlights from this young kid, but then also some moments where you're like, yeah, he's a young kid. So what do you expect in the Arch Manning era?
He is going to have probably the biggest expectations put on him than any player I can remember in the last 20 years of college football, and maybe since his uncles came out with Peyton and Eli, because they had the Manning last name in honor of their dad, Archie Manning. So there was massive expectations on them, but that was before social media. That was before, and those were, programs at Tennessee and Ole Miss were pretty big, but Texas is Texas, and they're asking him to be that missing piece to get him to the national championship. I really can't think of somebody outside of LeBron James who came into another layer of, sports, because LeBron obviously jumped from high school to the NBA. Arch is going from high school to college with as much fanfare, expectations, and hype. He is the preseason favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Texas is either first or second in the national championship odds. So here you go. And there was actually people, I know Texas came up short of their goal of a national championship, but the majority of Texas Longhorn fans are like, woohoo, all right, now we can start the Arch Manning era. Like, it's about to get better. And I've seen many a fan base disappointed by having unrealistic expectations or not winning a national championship. So I would just caution the Texas Longhorns. I think it's going to be a little bit bumpy early. I think he'll be fine in the long run. I think he'll be probably a number 1 or a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Does that translate to Heisman trophies and national championships? It depends on what Texas does around him.
So that's obviously the ceiling. Are we still trying to figure out where his floor is?
I think it's pretty safe. I mean, he's got the tools. He gets great, advice from his team, which does include Peyton and Eli. He's got a great coach in Steve Sarkisian. So I think the floor is pretty safe to say, Like, they're still going to be a winning program, 9-10 wins every year. That's like a pretty safe bet to say he's not going to be a complete bust. And as Jenny mentioned, he's already started a couple games this season and he played pretty well. He's come in. Sark has not been afraid to put him in critical short yardage situations in the biggest games of the year. So he's already got some experience. So he hasn't looked completely overwhelmed by any means. And
just also of note, you look at today's day and age of the transfer portal and the fact that he's been okay with kind of taking that back seat and learning from Quinn and having those moments to just kind of develop and grow. You have to say something for that too, because in this day and age, that's not the norm anymore.
And I hope young players, because everyone seems so antsy to be the starter day one. Like, I want to start as a true freshman. If it works, I hope he lays out a blueprint for other young quarterbacks to realize there is value in learning and getting developed and being patient and waiting for the right opportunity as opposed to taking any opportunity.
Talking about starters for the Texas Longhorns, quite a few of them declaring for the NFL draft. Not all of them. So just to put these numbers into perspective, last year Texas had 11 players selected in the NFL draft. That is selected. They now have 16 players that have already declared for the draft.
That's
obviously
wild.
Maybe not all of these guys are going to be selected, but Danny, this is a big hit. Not only is this Quinn Ewers moving on, but you got the receiver position, the running back position, the O-line. Look at the hit at the offensive and defensive line there.
Oy.
Almost all these are offensive players. There's only 4 defensive players at the back end.
So how concerned are you for the offense?
I'm concerned. So again, this kind of goes to the unrealistic expectations. Like, I don't think Texas should be a preseason favorite to win the national championship until we see what they do to address these positions. They haven't been too crazy active in the portal yet, but there will be a post-spring football portal when they can address some of these concerns. But you're losing one of your top running backs. You're losing 2 top wide receivers. You're losing your top tight end, the multiple guys along the offensive line. Massive holes to fill, but Texas has been a top 5 recruiting class for the last 4 or 5 years. Sark has done an outstanding job there. And as I mentioned, I still think they'll have some work to do in the portal where there will be some moves made to try to shore up some of these weaknesses.
They have that #1 recruiting class coming in this upcoming season, so that will definitely help. Now, we keep mentioning Sark, and that's a name that we're hearing a lot, and not just in the realm of college football, but there are a lot of rumors out there when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys that his name could be up for the head coaching position. What's the latest you're hearing on that?
So I think Sark is perfect for college football. I think he's been a great fit for Texas. I think he realizes this is a top 5 job in all of the college football landscape. Now, the Dallas Cowboys might be the top job in the sport, period. But he's got a really good thing going. I know he was in the NFL with the Falcons, and that was a lot of part of his rehab process. Like, when he was looking for another opportunity, he took the job in the NFL. I think he's perfectly happy where he is. And I think as a competitor, I think he wants to finish what he started and win a national championship for the Texas Longhorns. If you do that, any NFL job he will want when he wants it will be there for him. It's one of those things, Jenny, where you don't know personally what his goals and aspirations are. I feel like he's perfect for the college game. I think he's okay passing on the NFL this cycle, and I think those jobs will be there down the road. But if he's, if he views the Dallas Cowboys as this dream job, which some people might, then I think he'd be a good fit for that one too. He's a great offensive mind. He's been a great story, been able to come back from some of his personal demons. Those are behind him. He's a great leader. His players love playing for him. I think he'd be a great option, but I think he stays at Texas.
Do you know how much he's making?
Oh, yeah, he just got a raise last year. He's up at 9, 10?
He's about over $10 million. You know how much Mike McCarthy made?
How much?
$4 million.
Right.
So, my man,
why are you taking a pay cut?
You'd stay right where you're at.
So really quickly, I mean, this team that made it to the SEC championship game, granted they lost to Georgia, went on to the college football playoff semi. With all this going around the University of Texas, expectations for the next season?
They'll be right in the thick of things. I would expect them to be in the playoff conversation come next December. The question is, can they win the SEC? They did lose to Georgia in the SEC championship, lost to them twice. But they are an elite program right now, the way they are recruiting, the way they're bringing in talent, the way their coaching staff is set up, the way their quarterback room is set up with Arch stepping in. They should be right at the top. But again, I would just push back a little bit on the national championship aspirations until I see what they do on the offensive side of the ball around Arch Manning.
Can we not highlight their game against Georgia?
Did you also see that
Ohio
week 1
State
game
to
start?
A little rematch. Yeah.
Circle that one. I know your rivalry is all there.
No,
but
I'm saying, like, we don't need to be highlighting that. There are better games on that schedule now.
It's okay,
it is fine.
Amanda.
Danny Kanell, we appreciate it. Danny, part of the Cover 3 podcast. Latest episode, I think it is the...
Big game breakdown.
Oh, is that today finally?
Yeah, today we did that.
Okay, finally.
Yeah.
And I didn't hit when I looked earlier today. Big game breakdown.